I don't want to draft these guys in 2026, and I don't think you should either. In Dynasty, I'm even obviously more concerned, although maybe Garrett Wilson's value could go up if he gets traded and he's not in New York next year, or maybe something crazy happens. This team that's tanking the New York Jets might trade Garrett Wilson. Who the hell knows? If he went to New England, he'd be a top 5 to 10 wide receiver, but the problem is he's in New York. I want nothing to do with any New York Jet players. I want nothing to do with any Cleveland Brown players except for Harold Fannin. And I like Shador and like Superflex maybe as a third quarterback option. But this is going to be a terrible team that throws the ball a lot, so that's good for Fannin. I want nothing to do with George Kittle coming back from an Achilles tear, rushing his return. He's rushing himself back. It's never good for a player that plays the way he does. And the amount of stress he's going to put on his Achilles tendon, more so than any recent Achilles tendon recoveries we've seen. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. These guys don't put the kind of pressure on the Achilles on the return that George Kittle will, pushing off and blocking 300-pound linemen and DBs. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now. File on in. Appreciate you all being here for a graveyard edition, ladies and gentlemen. This is a graveyard show. So, let me see if I can get this intro to even play. My computer's been pretty dragging. Look at that old mock draft. We'll look at that in a second.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
So here's where we're at. I think that's bad advice. Well, I think your advice about my advice being bad is bad, Carlos. So good thing this is my show and not your show. I could care less what you think is good or bad if you don't mind. Quinshon Judkins, ladies and gentlemen, according to Andrew Berry, the Browns general manager, says the leg and ankle, which was a devastating injury, should put Quinshon Judkins, the recovery of it, should put him on track to potentially be ready for, they're thinking like June, roughly. So leg, ankle should participate in off-season workouts to some degree, in some form or some fashion. I believe that I'm here to add to your show, have a conversation. Don't be like that. You're the one that just walked in and said bad advice. And now when I say that that's bad advice, you all of a sudden can't handle that. I don't understand what you're talking about. You walk into my show and say that's bad advice. How are you supporting the channel, Carlos? I mean, answer that question. And then you don't like when I say it back to you. Well, it's bad advice to say it's bad advice. That's all I'm saying. But I don't care. Like, it's fine. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch. But you literally walk in and say that's bad advice to the chat. What do you expect people to say? This is not a conversation. Can we have a conversation? We could have a conversation, but you walk in and say it's bad advice. Does that sound like a conversation to you? Or does it sound like hate? So, okay. Anyway, Quinshon Judkins is a player that I'm totally avoiding. Number one, you have a horrible offense. You have an offense that's tanking. They clearly want the one overall pick. They clearly want to take a shot at Arch Manning. They clearly want to build their team around a losing season this year to build and bolster the next year's draft. Not only does this guy not catch passes, but his new head coach, Todd Monken, didn't throw to Derrick Henry ever. I went on record saying how much I thought Derrick Henry last year, the year before, and I still go on record saying Derrick Henry could be a top 5 receiving back in the National Football League. Top 5. I think Derrick Henry could be one of the best receiving backs in the league. Any given season, he's fed the ball. For some reason, they don't throw to him. They just don't throw to him. Todd Monken didn't throw to him. Nobody throws to him. I don't understand. When he gets the ball in open space, Derrick Henry's taking it to the house about once every 10 times. But they didn't throw to him. And so Todd Monken not throwing to Derrick Henry, what makes you think he's throwing to Quinshon Judkins, who walked out of the draft prospect process as a guy everyone said won't catch footballs, and he didn't. And he's coming back from a catastrophic injury where his ankle, leg, foot was like severed, practically. And so I just don't understand the appeal on such a bad team when there's so many safer players around Quinshon Judkins' ADP. And that's a lot of the time what avoids are about. It's not about hating a player. It's not about saying there isn't a world where I could see Quinshon Judkins gets back into favor with your boy Smitty. But it doesn't look likely at all for any time soon, and probably ever this year, because when you scroll down to Quinshon Judkins' ADP, 53 overall, that's astronomically high. It's recklessly high. It's crazy high. And you start looking at a guy like Bashal Tudor, who's well below. You start looking at a guy like Trey Henderson, who's one spot above him, but right there. They're neck and neck. They go back and forth. I see Quinshon Judkins get taken over Trey Henderson all the time, who had an amazing, remarkable season at the end of the day when you really look at what Henderson dropped in touchdowns, double-digit. Like, this guy did really well considering how held back he was. Cam Scadaboo, that's to be determined based on the landing spot. David Montgomery, I don't want any shares of David Montgomery either, but are they safer? Is it safer to invest in Montgomery over Quinshon Judkins? Yes. RJ Harvey's well below Quinshon Judkins. We're talking about a crazy, let me put the ADP on screen. Talking about a crazy difference in I think, value for all those players that are at and around Judkins' ADP. It makes 0 sense. 0 cents to go Quinshon Judkins shopping at 50, 51, 52 overall. It's just a recipe for disaster with one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league. Look at this ADP. Bucky, 36. Okay, that's far away. Javonte, still very far away. Hendy, 48. Quinshon Judkins, 53. This is straight in order. Cam Scadaboo, David Montgomery, RJ Harvey. If we even go a little further than RJ Harvey, you have Tyler Algier. You have Kyle Monangai. And while Kyle Monangai might be going at 93 comparatively to Judkins' 53, you're talking about a massive difference, almost double the ADP. You can't take Monangai over Judkins. But what I would do 100% is draft Monangai and maybe also a Blake Corum combo or Tyler Algier at 87. So you're taking Tyler Algier and Monangai almost back-to-back in the 80s and 90s and use that as your running back 2 or 3, wherever you're trying to place Quinshon Judkins. Put Monangai and put here. You know what? We'll just do you a favor, Carlos. You don't like it here? I don't know what your problem is today. I don't know what your problem is today. But you say you're a supporter, but all you're doing is hating in the chat. So why don't we just remove you? Why don't we just take you out of the chat? Why don't we just save you the trouble? Because you're nonstop with the negativity, criticism, and everything. I don't have to convince you of anything. You're here to watch. You're here to absorb like a sponge. But if you're all full, maybe you can observe and absorb somewhere else. You don't love me, Carlos. You clearly don't. So why don't we put you in a 24-hour timeout, and then we'll see next time you come in whether we want to keep you in here. So let's put them in I'll put you in a 10-minute because I'm feeling very gracious right now. So let's see what you say when you come back. Jeez, man, some people. Where was I before this guy's completely rudely interrupting every single thing we're talking about? Even the chat, just rudely interrupting the chat. Look at all the messages. There's like 15 messages in between everyone's like conversation. Convince me. Tell me, Smitty. Oh my God, did you say Algier? Like he didn't even listen to a word I said. Did I say, raise your hand if you heard me say draft Monangai over Quinshon Judkins. Carlos thought he heard that. Raise your hand if you heard me say draft Tyler Algier over Quinshon Judkins. The truth is, the only person raising their hand right now is Carlos in timeout. Because what Smitty said is you draft a different player instead of Judkins. You go across position and you say 50 overall. Who's sitting there at 50 at wide receiver? Mike Evans, 50 exactly. McLaurin, 48. DJ Moore, BTJ, like whatever. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. Draft whoever you want. Quarterback. Who's sitting there at the ADP of Judkins at quarterback? Well, that's a real good value. You're talking about every single quarterback but Josh Allen is available at Quinshon Judkins' ADP. But instead of not running your mouth and just listening to what I was saying and let me present the show, Carlos is in here critiquing my words before the sentences are even concluded. Imagine someone coming in to try and teach you a lesson like I'm here to try and teach Carlos. I'm trying to have Carlos absorb things. And imagine coming in and before I even finish each of my sentences, he's critiquing and acting like Manungai, Algier, all these. But instead of just absorbing and learning, he's running his mouth saying how much he loves me when he's critiquing, hating, and criticizing everything. As I was trying to say, Carlos, listen up. Maybe you come back in a wiser fantasy football owner. But instead of taking Quinshon Judkins right at this 50 overall ADP, you take any quarterback but Josh Allen. Is that Lamar? Whatever quarterback, whoever you think is number 2, take that quarterback instead. Home run. Who thinks Judkins is better than Lamar Jackson for your fantasy team? Then downstream, you're going to draft Manungai in the 90s. Not Manungai. That's a hard name to write as you say it. Manungai. Manungai and also Algier. And you grab these two gentlemen downstream in the 90s. See the difference? Quinshon Judkins 50. These two 90s. Give me Lamar and Algier and Manungai over Quinshon Judkins and a 90 range quarterback every time. Can I get a vote in the chat? Who would rather have Lamar Jackson at 50 overall instead of Judkins and have Algier Manungai in the 90s? Or who here would rather have Quinshon Judkins in the 50s and a quarterback in the 90s? Raise your hand or vote which side you want, because that's today's lesson. I hope you learned something, Carlos, because I just taught you how to win a league. Now, as far as this ridiculous Judkins value to avoid in 2026, let's move on to the next situation. Geno Smith and the Jets, man. Sounds like a band. Geno Smith and the Jets. This is a band to avoid. Don't go to a concert. Don't buy a single ticket. There's no backstage passes. There's nothing, bro. You don't want to go near this situation. I will admit I was on the Breece Hall train early in the offseason. But adjust and adapt is the way it goes. Adjust and adapt is how life works. Is how fantasy works. Is how everything works. And Geno Smith being this team's signal caller, and when you have the conviction that Aaron Glenn has, Aaron Glenn shouldn't even have a head coaching job. He should have been fired last year. Aaron Glenn said about the Jets QB situation, no doubt about it. Geno Smith as the Jets quarterback, that was his answer. No doubt about it. This guy believes Geno Smith is his lead dog quarterback. There's no hesitation. There's no competition. You can't even get this kind of conviction out of teams that have a clear starter that they should be backing. Like, remember J9 last year when he was the only one on the roster? You couldn't get this kind of conviction that Aaron Glenn has about Geno Smith. This is a disaster. This is a straight up disaster. If Garrett Wilson gets traded to New England on some similar surprise to Waddle getting traded to Denver, it'd be kind of it looks obvious after it happens, but under the radar type of thinking and mapping it out. Then honestly, like Garrett Wilson goes to 5 to 10, wide receiver 5 to 10. But it doesn't feel like that's on the horizon. So we can't be making trades or holding on to players and foregoing good trade away opportunities, sell high opportunities because we're hopeful that the C's part. This is horrible. This is horrible. And I think, redemption season for Geno. Yeah, right. This is going to be where Garrett Wilson's just trapped in an abyss of garbage. There's no way out for him. And while I was high on Breece Hall, and I admittedly said a couple times in the offseason that even if Breece stays, there's still hope that he can easily earn what would be his new ADP, because if he stays, he falls. The inflated balloon situation. Everybody expecting him to get traded, or signed somewhere just like Walker did, right? KC. Everybody thought it was KC. All Patrick Mahomes' Instagram posts, by the way, Breece Hall likes him right away. I always watch. Breece Hall wants to play with Patty. It's just such a shame. But I even said in the offseason, admittedly, this is on me. I'll take a lap if it affected anybody's trade or no trade, because I said it at the time. I said, look, I'm not going to like Breece Hall's ADP at the moment that it's announced he stays, if he did in fact stay. And we thought there was a stronger chance he'd be in KC or somewhere else. But I said, even if he ended up staying, the ADP would adjust initially, like right away, and he'd fall to like mid-4. And I was like, that cost of entry is great. And I still don't hate it. It's not the end of the world. Like, out of all these players here, Judkins, Kittle, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall's the one that I could actually take the X off of and say, he's more of just a caution. Don't oversaturate. Draft him once. Just get a share of him in case he goes crazy. But take him one time. Sky says, just catching up, why Judkins. Go watch the show, though, Skies. I mean, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing for you. Just rewatch it. Just rewind. It's right there. It's DVR'd for you. Appreciate you, though. Aaron Glenn's going to screw all this up. This guy shouldn't be even a assistant offensive coordinator, let alone a head coach or an offensive coordinator or anything. Aaron Glenn's trash. And the fact that the team kept him on board, partly I believe this is so they can tank a little bit better. I think the organization wants the 1 pick. They know Aaron Glenn's the right man for the job to get the 1 overall pick. And he's a great scapegoat at the end of it all, because they're going to wipe the board clean after the abysmal 2026 season the Jets are about to have. 1 win, 0 wins, 2 wins, who knows? I can't imagine they get more than 3 wins. So it does make sense a little bit to have Aaron Glenn at the helm, because he'll probably drive the team straight into the ground by comments like this, by actions like this, by thinking that parallels this, that Geno's their starter, no doubt about it. Mine, Geno's the starting quarterback. The man doesn't write back. He doesn't write back to anything. So I'd probably say, assistant defensive coordinator. Did I say offensive defensive coordinator? Aaron Glenn. Now, Signasty likes him as a defensive coordinator. I don't like Aaron Glenn at all. Maybe like Eberflus, there's a way that if you put him back in his compartment, he can kind of do his job, and we'll see. But I think this is going to ruin him. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Geno Smith, trash this year. Geno Smith is going to be trash for everything around him. And Breece Hall's the only one that I think could squeak out potential 5th round, bottom of 4th round value if all things go right, even in a disastrous situation. So he's the only one, like I said, I could probably take the X off and just say it's a draft him in 1 league. Don't oversaturate at all. Not a total avoid, though. We got a couple super chats. One from Strone with a $20 hauler. Let me attack this real quick, and let me just see if there's any Rumble rants over there real quickly and drag those on screen. I got Rumble. I got 420 man over on the Rumble side. Simi Valley over on the Rumble side. Guys, hit the thumb up button over on Rumble Land. Appreciate you. Strone with the $20 hauler. Let me get rid of these. Thank you again, Hammer, for these earlier. Hammer dropping wads over on the Rumble last night. So was Luis. Luis was going crazy. Throwing this message here. I've been waiting for this year's avoids, and I'm loving what we're I'm loving that we're mostly avoiding players on bad teams. Do it live, and that's where I'm going next. So it's a freaking fantastic segue to what I'm saying. Great minds think alike. What commonality here, other than Kittle? And I'll just say it now because I was going to wait to the end to say this, but now that it's here and out in the open, appreciate you. What commonality do we have here? Bad teams. What does Smitty tell you? Draft players on good fantasy teams. It doesn't have to always be a good team. It could be a good fantasy team. Now, George Kittle does live on a good team, a good fantasy team, potentially, right? Especially with Evans in town. But he's coming back from a torn Achilles tendon. and he's going to be put in a position where he's working that tendon like unlike Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins or any other Achilles recovery player, and it's going to be tough for him to stay healthy. Not to mention he might tear the other one. How many times have I told you that you tend to see a person in like Cam Akers' situation where there's another rupture? Because why? Because the player's explosive differently than a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins may never tear their other Achilles or re-injure their recovered Achilles because they don't explode like a running back does or like George Kittle does, blocking and running and cutting. And so there's a high likelihood that George Kittle will re-injure his Achilles tendon that he had surgery on or rupture the other. And the wear and tear of your Achilles tendons, one just doesn't get worn down and the other's hunky-dory. They're getting worn down at a similar rate, and the vulnerability that busted the one is still in place to bust the other. Now, injections and different things that they're coming up with, obviously, you get stem cell injections going to Germany. They might have really beefed up the other one, made it bionic. I mean, it's certainly possible, but he's pushing it to come back by week 1, which is his target date, and John Lynch even spoke to it. It's too early. They're really pushing it. I hope he doesn't rush back because he'll probably re-injure or tear the other Achilles tendon. Either way, I'm not a big fan of Kittle's likelihood to stay healthy because of the compensation of this and the hamstring injuries and different things that coincide with compensation. And when you rush back from something like this, you are compensating consistently, always, constant compensation. And the compensation injuries will mount with a player that puts his body on the line. And this is not somebody that's just going to come back and not need to tax the Achilles. He's going to be taxing the Achilles almost more than any position except for maybe running back, which is why running backs have never, ever once has a running back become a top 10 running back or returned to a top 10 running back form after an Achilles tendon tear. Never has a running back been a top 10 running back after an Achilles tear. So Kittle is, and no, Adrian Peterson didn't tear his Achilles before you start typing that. Yeah, so anyway, aside from Kittle, bad teams. Like even if we avoided Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall just because they're on a bad fantasy team, legit. Talk about Geno Smith and Aaron Glenn and all this. Another reason of legitimacy to the claim. Judkins, they don't throw the ball to the running back. One can prove that. He's one of the more talented pass-catching backs, and Derrick Henry never threw to him. Evidence there that Judkins won't catch passes, let alone he came out as a running back that didn't catch passes. The injury's devastating. Will he be able to play a healthy season? Maybe, maybe not. But I just don't see the value especially in a PPR world or even a half PPR world where this guy's coming back from this injury, plays on a bad team. They don't throw to running backs. He doesn't catch. And you're expecting to have this one-dimensional player face stack boxes and have awful play across the board. This team is the field position, everything, the offensive line, stack boxes, success percentages against stack boxes, all that stuff is going to come down on Judkins one-dimensional shouldering that one-dimensional style of play to get you fantasy production. It's just not worth it. And even if I'm wrong, I'm right. Ask Miss Smitty. I say that all the time. Even when I'm wrong here, I will be right. Because even if Judkins, in the worst case scenario for my argument, ends up working out, you're drafting a player that's probably going to score the same amount, and you're getting a much safer player, especially if we go the direction that I described earlier, where you're taking Lamar at 50 instead of Judkins, and you're getting a combo of Algier and Monangai, and players like that are Tootin and Monangai. You're grabbing your running back too. If let's say Judkins was your 2, you're grabbing a safer combination of 2 players and getting that Lamar instead of Judkins at that 50. Even if I'm Wrong. I am right, because Lamar is impacting more than Judkins anyway, or whatever quarterback. This could be Burrow. This could be JD5. Maybe it's JD5 that you like. Like, close your eyes and imagine what it is that you picture as QB2. If it's Burrow, that's fine too. We'll put Burrow right here. If it's Drake May, you like Drake May, put Drake May there. This is basically any quarterback, because the only quarterback that's gone by 50 on ADP on Underdog is Josh Allen. So we can put Drake May here with ease. You're telling me Drake May and Algier Manungai aren't better than Judkins and a quarterback in the 90s? Get out of here. So even if I'm wrong and Judkins ends up playing well, in the worst of worst case scenarios, this thing breaks even. And the person that took Judkins ended up having a great result, and I had a great result. And then we ended up kind of washing, and it's like, hey, I was wrong, but I still scored as much as you. That's when you say, what a decision. That's when avoids make sense. Tootin is another example. Like Tootin over Judkins, even like a round later, you go Lamar or Burrow or May, and then you get away with Harvey or Tootin later, a round later, potentially, depending on how close your two picks are. Another great way to approach this situation. Let me hit this super chat here. This is from Fish. Fish, appreciate you. Should I trade away K9 for 2.03 and Quorum? If you like losing, Fish, definitely trade K9 away. If you like winning, don't even consider doing this trade. Absolutely hate this trade.
You've just been Smitty disapproved.
And it's not to say that Quorum can't earn his keep, but Walker's not even 26 years old, right? Let me go to my thefantasyfootballshow.com player pages, and he's 25.4 years old. Check out these player pages. These player pages are unbelievable over at thefantasyfootballshow.com. I'm telling you, if you don't think this is the best content you've ever seen, I'm baffled. I'm scratching my head. I want you to come into my live stream. I want you to call into my show and tell me, Smitty, these aren't the best player pages I've ever seen. I dare you, because you can't say it. Nobody can muster up that with a straight face. These are the best player pages you've ever seen. Week 1 projections, the lineup calculator. Let's pick Kenneth Walker against somebody else in the calculator right on the page. Trait calculator right on the page with Kenneth Walker preloaded. 2025 advanced metrics. This little feature right here, this cross-positional little addition. Let me take a screenshot of that. This is probably one of my favorite additions I've added to the website, period. It's in the advanced data metrics on the fantasyfootballshow.com player pages, on every player page. And it's so phenomenal. I'm so excited. I get giddy thinking about this. It's basically a trade idea chart. And so you can see, you can go by redraft or dynasty. You can go by QB. Basically, it doesn't allow you to compare the player at the same position. It's a cross-position tool. So Walker is in the middle of all the wide receivers above and below him to show you what the trade value cross position is for Walker. Olave, Nico, Pickens, Rice, AJB, Garrett Wilson. It's such a beautiful way to map out cross positionally what the player's worth. This is called the cross position value chart over on each player page. But on the player page, you can see right here, 25.4 years of age. And what other place can you find that actual decimal too? Because when you think about it, who cares when their birthday is? You got to calculate it. I'm not saying it's that difficult, but when you get told somebody's 25.4, 25.2, you know exactly what you're dealing with. So, and then on top of that, if you click on the actual birthday on my website, thefantasyfootballshow.com, on the player pages, guess what you get? Even further deep diving, like this website's designed to do, thefantasyfootballshow.com. Running backs, it's pre-loaded with the top 20 running backs overall based on value, and it shows you how old that specific player is. It jumps straight to that person highlighted. It shows Kenneth Walker, if we're looking at the top 20 running backs in fantasy football, from a dynasty perspective, he is the 14th running back in age at 25.4. It's just such a nice tool. Absolutely love it. So worst trade you can make, he's a 25-year-old player, you know, that's going to win leagues, and you're going to go get a 2.3 in Quorum. Fish, I appreciate your super chat, and I want you to know my reaction is not against you. It's a passionate reaction to get you not to do it. So I hope you didn't take offense to it. Real quickly before we get to anything else, okay, Aaron Rodgers, not to say he's a bust because this is kind of a bust topic tonight, but Steelers owner and president Art Rooney said that he expects Aaron Rodgers to decide whether he wants to re-sign with Pittsburgh before the 2026 draft. It's just more like delays that cause this thing to be kind of a tough situation in Pittsburgh to believe in. But I do like DK Metcalf, and if they're losing, they're going to be throwing a lot, and I think McCarthy's going to air it out to DK. So the only player I really love is Dowdle from a midseason monster perspective because he might be worth something, solid midseason. This is our midseason monster board. That guy might even be just out the gate, amazing in week one. I love Wilson in Seattle, Keaton Mitchell in LAC. You got Dowdle, Jordan James, Coker. This is a great midseason monster board. I gotta say that just gets my juices flowing, bro. I look at that midseason monster board and I say this is a home run list of players that are practically free in some of the cases, and some of them they're 90s, and there is some more expensive. There's a range of talent there, but yeah, what was I even saying? Why did I show that midseason monster? What was I even talking about? Let me pull up the midseason monster board. It'll refresh my memory just by looking at it. We're talking about Dowdle. Oh, Steelers. So I don't think that the Steelers have anything to offer in fantasy, but maybe Dowdle as a midseason monster, secret weapon, late grab, and then DK. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is worth much. I mean, Superflex, we could have conversations about where you'd put him because obviously he becomes relevant in Superflex. And then, Warren, I'm just going to stay away from him. What do they do in the draft? We'll see. Thank you, Fish, for dropping that. I appreciate you, my boy. And let me go over to Rumble real quickly. I've got Simi. FDX is in the building now. Appreciate FDX. 420, man. You're my boy, Blue. Appreciate Landman, Hammer, and Luis and all the boys. And then the other piece of news here that we already talked about some stuff around Kittle's situation, but this is the report that GM John Lynch said that he's hopeful that George Kittle Achilles plays in week one. I will say the hopeful part tends to always err on the side of caution. I would say more often than not, when there's a hopeful projection of something like this, it usually doesn't land. And if it did, he's going to get hurt rushing back. So the best thing Kittle could do is come back after a month of football. Week 5, week 6. I mean, sometime in October will be the smart play. And that might be how it ends up playing out. The Fantasy Football Show phone lines are open. Dial in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Dial in. I'd love to have a conversation about any of these players specifically, but if you got your own question, feel free. Sometimes people are creative in mixing in this and then asking another question or whatever, but I would like to see who can touch on these topics. By the way, Denny called me today off the air, and I answered the line, and I said, Denny, where you been? You keep dialing in when we're not live. And he said, I'm trying to get him to come out here to Phoenix and during a local live stream that we do. So we're working on that right now. That would be phenomenal to have Denny by my side, live streaming out and about in Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale, where I will probably give away some things. So get ready for that, all my local Arizonians, because I'd love to see you present at said location. I think it's going to be in June or July, so hang tight on that. Dial into the phone line. Dial in.
Live from
Call
the
into the
Fantasy.
show. Call into the show.
I also got good news. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but the Attic Shop is back. I smell meatloaf. Back for a 4th season, maybe, I think. So the Attic Shop is back. I got to put them on the phone line. The dial into the Attic Shop phone lines So happy to get the Addict Shop back. I love them so much. I probably promote them anyway. But this is I've had a lot of T-shirt and hoodie companies come to me and say, hey, we can give you like, NFL team, you just promote. And I'm like, I already got a hoodie and shirt company and they're not even football. But I love them so much. They're not going anywhere. They're not leaving. And so they're back for another season. Couldn't be more ecstatic about that. We'll be doing some giveaways for the Addict.shop. And if anybody doesn't know what the Addict.shop is for whatever reason, it's right here. It's vintage hoodies and tees from movies and vintage, like, classic movies, cult classics from 40 plus years ago, Godzilla, King Kong. I just love movies and TV and streaming and all that. And I just love this brand. They're so freaking phenomenal. The clothing's unbelievably comfortable. So the Addict.shop is back, baby. They're back. DJ's on the line. Travis is in the chat. Travis, call in if you want. If not, no worries. But DJ, you're live. What can I do for you, young man? Oh, hold on, DJ. It sounds like we got I don't know what made me think my phone lines would work beautifully without messing with the audio settings. Hang tight, DJ, 1 second. Just because nothing else is working properly right now. And it's not because I got a bad setup or I need to, a lot of people say, Smitty, upgrade. It's hard to, unless you do this like I do, 3 shows a day, like you're taxing your system and you just need to reset things, restart things. And I don't have time sometimes. And I just go live and I hope that everything is going to be good. And if I wanted to, if I restarted my computer and all my systems and because there's a lot goes into the show. It's not just me hitting a button. And, there's a lot of things that go in the phone line, everything. It all ties together. And, Romario dropping 5 gifted memberships like a monster.
I smell meatloaf.
All right, DJ, now you're live. Go ahead, pal.
Best phone on the planet, Smitty. Appreciate the compliment, the young man. I definitely feel like one.
Yeah.
Wilson. Yeah. Just depends on cost of entry. I mean, in terms of where we're grabbing them at, in its proper context. Yeah, I'm not touching Judkins and especially when I have Harvey, Henderson, and a couple of others, in that area. And regardless, I guess, of what I may think of Algier, in that area of the 90s. Yeah, that's value.
Think about it. If I handed you, who's your
Judkins in the 50s?
Who's your QB2?
Yeah, that makes sense, man.
Who's your QB2?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Who's your QB2?
Oh, my QB2 is May.
Okay, so if I handed you Drake May, Manungai, and Algier instead of Judkins and a quarterback in the 90s, you would take that, right?
Yeah.
That's why when what's his face, I forget even who it was, started running his mouth at the beginning of the show before I'm even done presenting the case. It's like you got to sit back and let the knowledge sink in, pal, because what I just mapped out was glory. You avoid Judkins, draft the second or third quarterback, and go get your Manungai, Algier, whatever you like in those deeper territories. That's how you win a league. That's how you outsmart the ADP. And going after Judkins in the 50s is just not a good... It doesn't even matter. Like I said, even if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong. Because the players that I take are going to deliver. And the person got lucky on Judkins because he ended up doing pretty well. They just break even with what I'm doing at best. So that's the way it works. And then real quickly, just on the Garrett Wilson ADP, Lab McConkey's below him. I'd rather have Lad. I know there's a risk there. So if someone wants to say, hey, that's totally risky too, like I agree. So let's throw Lad out. Buka, take Buka all day. Flowers, is a decent play, but depends what happens. Luther Burden's really nice. What ends up happening though, Garrett Wilson 37 overall, we again go cross position probably. And we say, and let's pull up the cross position data on thefantasyfootballshow.com because this is what this tool is made to do. Let me search for Garrett Wilson. I love this tool, DJ. It's one of I've invented a lot in this industry. I've invented the trade calculator, the draft simulator. But this is one of my favorite inventions I've ever made. I don't know why. It's so simple. It's not even an invention, really. It's just a tool. But if you're trying to trade Garrett Wilson or draft around Garrett Wilson's ADP, you pull up the cross position chart on my thefantasyfootballshow.com player page. In the advanced stats section, you click on the cross position value chart and look at the players above and below. And it's just such a kick in the nads to remind you of what you're maybe doing wrong by drafting said player, or what you can get in a trade for said player if you just stop thinking about the position that they're in. And so Garrett Wilson for Trey Henderson, or Garrett Wilson for Javonte and something, is just a home run. You know, especially Trey Henderson and something, because the difference in dollar value means that you're getting more. You're not just making a Garrett Wilson for Hendy trade or avoiding Garrett Wilson and drafting Hendy. You're maybe doing something different with this Garrett Wilson pick, and you're saying, Hendy, I could get the next round, and so why don't we go Lamar? Why don't we go, you know, or whatever, Josh Allen? Josh Allen at 30. Where's Josh Allen's ADP? So Josh Allen's at 28, so you probably wouldn't get him at Garrett Wilson's ADP, but you're still getting any one of the quarterbacks you want. You're still getting. Let's see here. Who's at 43. I love it. I love it. Go ahead, DJ. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. Good stuff. And exactly. So right now with Wilson, I don't see it. There's just better value, even just sitting and grabbing one of those Walker and Vontae. And the cross positional thing, exactly. So yeah, and again, I think if I'm understanding what you're sharing, and I'm learning, and that is, again, if we're looking at 90s,
thank you, world,
those value at that standpoint, let's wait and grab that upside and get better leverage at that shooting or that premium. You know, So
real quick,
no bad teams.
Real quick. A businessman says avoid Geno Smith. Really, Smitty? LOL. I don't know what you're trying to say, bro. No one does. Why don't you write more than that so we know what you're talking about? Are you saying this as in, whoa, bold statement, and then you really didn't hear anything that this show had to offer? Like all you heard was avoid Geno Smith. Who here would have drafted Geno Smith before the show started? Nobody. Who here is drafting Geno Smith after the show started? Nobody. Who here thinks that this show was about Geno Smith at all, and not a degree of separation or relative, the relations that connect to Geno Smith? Like, what are you even talking about? And then this one doesn't surprise me. I mean, what kind of bizarro world are we in tonight? Where is this one at? Hold on. It was I don't know where it even went. I think you're in the wrong room, business. I think you meant to go into the business chat. Where is this one? I actually like Garrett Wilson this year. Yeah, big surprise that you disagree with something I say, John. I don't even know why you watch this show, John, to be honest. No clue. All right, Worldwide says, hey, what up, Smitty? This is for my UConn Huskies beating Duke. Thank you for the 20 and congrats. What a game. That was a crazy ending. If anybody didn't see that was crazy.
Well, Signacian's a good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. You didn't bother reading the whole thing, John, because you've already cried wolf too many times. You don't have that luxury where I'm going to read your entire book message. You write a novel in the chat. Your first thing is, I actually like. No matter what I say, I could say the sun is not out right now, and you say I actually think it is, and when you do that every time, I know I don't want to read it, John. I'm sorry. Here, let me pull up John's message real quickly. Hold on. Here's John's message. John says, I actually like Garrett Wilson, and then I say to myself, very sorry or happy that this happened to you, whichever applies to this message, John. There you go. All right, sorry, DJ, and then the phone line's open if anybody else wants to dial in.
Well, look, Wilson. I like Wilson over Olave. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about that in terms of cut off. And Wilson, as I stated last night, he came in the league, with minimal like QB help and ball, and has been a baller. So again, I like Wilson. It's just again value and where you might be,
of course,
getting him at.
Of course, and if he got traded to New England, we love him.
Geno, you keep him upright in the pocket and what have you. I don't know that Geno would be any worse than Zach Wilson or insert QB that Wilson has been playing with and still hitting 1,000 yards.
Possibly.
So it's just
possibly. But Garrett, but Aaron Glenn's in this equation too, though. Like you gotta remember that. You got Aaron Glenn in charge of this situation too, though. It's not just Geno Smith and he's got a good setup to do. Like Geno Smith couldn't do anything in LV because the setup was awful and he was awful. But could he have done something if he was in a decent situation? At least give Garrett, or Brock Bowers or anybody the football. Yeah, but he's in a replica of what LV gave him in LV, and now he's got the same kind of setup. And well, you might say he's got a great running back and a great receiver, sure. But I just don't.
Arm is shot to me, man.
Yeah.
You get stand up in the pocket, you still got to deliver the ball. But we'll see. But Judkins, I think, out of the avoids that you, that RB in the 50s, and as much, I'm an RB guy, running back guy. But the no PPR value. Someone had a great point about his health. But yeah, that's the most glaring one to me out of.
You know what the problem is, though? The problem is like a Geno Smith with Aaron Glenn, with the Jets field position, with the Jets, everything that crumbles for this team. The positions that Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall will be put in will be injury prone, esque in nature. Like asking Garrett Wilson to put everything on his back to get every single yard. That's where mistakes are made. That's where Neighbors tears his ACL trying to lay out for a ball that he, is putting his entire body on the line because it's the only shot he has to get the ball down the field. So let me just sacrifice my body and my soul for this play. And then it leads to injury. It leads to a lot of things. And so, the idea of either Breece or Garrett Wilson, unfortunately, being hurt at some point this year because how bad this system is and the setup and everything. And again, it comes down to the Judkins thing. Am I wrong? Or anybody that says I'll just avoid at ADP right now, as DJ said, if ADP changes, we'll reassess. Or if Garrett Wilson got traded, we love him. It's not about Garrett Wilson. We love Garrett Wilson. But if I'm wrong, I'm still not wrong because the players around Garrett Wilson are there's so many safer guys that can score the exact same if Garrett Wilson does play well. So that's what avoiding is all about. It's not about hating a player. It's about hating the cost of entry. And that can change, and then you adjust and adapt. But when you get to a point where a player is so risky, you're not seeing clearly, and the players around, even if they're cross position, which is why I created the cross position tool on thefantasyfootballshow.com, and you see that the cross position for this is Hendy, but that's much lower. So you think, okay, I think I can get Hendy potentially in the next round, and let's go after a quarterback, or maybe you're grabbing, just a different receiver there. But the cross position thinking here leads you to say, you know what? There's safer avenues than to go Garrett Wilson. Doesn't matter if you like Garrett Wilson. Doesn't matter if Garrett Wilson delivers. You avoided the risk that was Garrett Wilson. That's clearly, evident. And maybe it works out for the person that takes a gamble on him. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm not going to lose any sleep if someone banks on Garrett Wilson at ADP and he does deliver. And I say, your guy scored as much as my guy. Ended up working out. Cool. Handshake. We both did well. But I'm going to be walking away from the risk is what I'm doing.
And, I think that you've been speaking to this in terms of just the landing of these upcoming wide receivers. We're having this debate with Wilson, who is obviously accomplished, right? So it's a good point in terms of still the value around who's delivering the ball to receivers. Aaron Glenn, yeah, you mentioned him. Yeah, that's not good. He's standing on business. And hopefully, maybe that is the case for Geno. But
and like Sick Nasty said, if he goes back to defensive coordinator role or something, could he maybe be good again? Sure, but he's an awful head coach. He has no business making the decisions and personnel decisions unrelated to the defense and all that stuff. Like Aaron Glenn is awful. Absolutely.
It did occur to be that way. It's no joke being HC. But, he does have Frank Reich there. Now, I want to say Frank Reich because he is relevant and he is a name, right? As some type of stable, force for him. Because it does, in my opinion, look like, Ben doesn't know what he's doing. Pardon my French. But some stability in that and maybe having some offense. But, yeah, I don't know that Aaron Glenn is long,
yeah. No, he's there as a scapegoat. They kept him in place for when they boot him, when they clear the board. By the way, I didn't play the Worldwide West theme when he dropped his $20 super chat. Thank you for reminding me in the chat. Thank you, Wes, for dropping your $20 super chat. Anybody ever drops a $200 ever on the channel gets their own $20 super chat theme. And so when Wes ever drops a $20 super chat, he earned that. So we play that every time. Hammer's got one. Luis has got one. We're making New Age Outlaws because and BBQs and Ron Navies because they've obviously cleared that number. So Worldwide West, thank you for dropping that 200. Husseini's dropped 200 before too. He needs one. He needs one. Husseini needs one that's maybe just put a picture of Patrick Mahomes and Husseini just chilling on a beach together. That's probably what I'll do. All right, DJ, anything else?
Nah, man. About that. Kittle. San Francisco. Kittle. Where are they drafting? 20? Is it 20s? The 20s? I don't have it in front of me, and I'm sorry, but
yeah, I'll pull it up.
That. Yeah. If I'm San Fran and Dowers is there, naturally a receiver, I'm grabbing him. Kittle's still that dude. He can ball, but it's called like succession planning. And if he's there, why not? You brought in Evans. That definitely is a stopgap for a year or two. So, to have to grab a receiver, sure. But would that be more important than grabbing a tight end, just flip in Kittle when he's gone? Let's go on the planet, Smitty.
All right, thanks, pal. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if they had a pick, that made sense for it, this 27 overall for the San Francisco 49ers, I think could be Stower's territory. Probably will not be Sadiq. I imagine Sadiq, he has a chance to go, in the bottom part of the top 10, but because his combine was just unbelievable. But it kind of feels like he hasn't moved that high in the consensus, which is odd to me. So you're probably looking at Sadiq in here, but it certainly could happen. And then Stowers, I think this is probably a pretty good spot. But remember, they got Tunges, and Tunges is pretty good. I like him. He's a totally big sleeper, best ball tight end to grab. So I don't know. But yeah, Kittle, we'll see. Worldwide, thanks again for that. Hopefully is Worldwide still here? Did he get to see his video play? I totally spaced on that, not playing it. Worldwide, you still here? Hopefully you saw that. Phone line's open.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Dial into the show brought to you by theattic.shop. In fact, let's pull that over here. Hold on. Where is the attic.shop phone line? Let's grab this and bring it in here.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Brought to you by theattic.shop. Love saying that. I was wondering if they're going to be back this year. everybody's busy. You know, you just don't know when you're going to have conversations, and they're back, and couldn't be more excited about that. Worldwide Wes, he's here. So congratulations on the world being yours, my guy. So Duke's head coach going to be on the hot seat, blown twice in a row. Yeah, that was crazy, man. That was crazy, that ending. I don't know, you can blame it fully. I mean, yeah, I don't know. So they had the ball. The Duke was taking it across midcourt, and they just threw it away. And all they had to do was hold on to it. And they launched a three with 0.3 seconds left, I think, down by 2. And then they hit it up by 1. Crazy, man. RDM says, been on the other side of the globe for a couple of weeks, but haven't missed an upload. Feels good to catch a live graveyard stream again. Appreciate you being here, pal. Thank you, RDM. RDM to the moon.
Let's go! Mashed potato!
Luis is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Luis, where's Luis? I got to get Luis's. That's what I got to work on tomorrow, just to make sure I have Luis's video. I have it right here. It's right here. And I'll play it because I owe him for not playing it last night a couple times. I just need to have a video, like a scene for it. I was starting to like play it randomly, but then it gets lost. I need to have its own. Unfortunately, it has to have its own button that I can hit to play it, you know. But I'll do that. Luis, appreciate you. Luis was extending the show tremendous amount of times the last 2 nights on the Dynasty channel, which we're going to be on the Dynasty channel in a minute. I thought I'd take 1 or 2 more phone calls, and then we're out of here. We're back on the Dynasty channel. And quite honestly, I mean, maybe we just roll with the Quinshon Judkins and Garrett Wilson. Maybe we kind of run this topic back in Dynasty. I don't know. Could be pretty good unless somebody has a better topic or idea. So, yeah, guys, get on over to thefantasyfootballshow.com. I think I cranked out 15 outlooks in the last half of today. So there's 15 brand new outlooks up on thefantasyfootballshow.com. So go check out those outlooks right now. All the player pages are getting loaded up with content. There's so many tools. The player page search right here. The stock market, the bold predictions, the rankings are year-round. The draft simulator, you can add keepers, not add keepers, take players out of the draft list for keeper, you know, if you want to not add keepers but take people out. You know how sometimes you got to add players into draft slots, right? You can add players into the draft sim at their draft slot so that when it gets to that pick, it fills them in. Or you can just take out 10, 12 guys, and then that's sometimes they're not connected to a draft slot per se. So you just remove the 10 players and then run the draft. Super flex drafts, dynasty or redraft or rookie linear drafts. You can do all that on the draft simulator. Lineup calculator for week 1 is already ready to go. Trade calculator gives intense, like multi-level layer advice. And even has safeguards built in if someone's trying to take advantage of you with a 3-for-1 and the calculator detects that. It will actually, even if it says you should do this trade, it will say, wait, stop, warning. Do you want to run this with the safeguard measure in place to account for the 3-for-1 stacking that this guy's doing? And then it adds some value to your side to account for like a waiver wire or lineup player, and then it reruns it and tells you the new advice. It's unbelievable. Like this is just, I'm so proud of this site. And I've been doing content longer than really anybody you can find. Because I got into the space in 2002 to create the trade calculator. And I've been innovating ever since in the business. But what I've done this offseason blows the 25 years plus of doing it out of the water. Like, this website's better than 25 years of fantasy football content that I've produced. That's how excited I am about it. About as excited as Luis down at the bottom of the screen there. All right, so if no one's going to call in like a shy group tonight, I know it's a little late. We will be on the Dynasty channel in T-minus 5 minutes. Pronto says blows the competition away. It really does. I could be biased and say, yeah, my site's it's the best. It really is. Like this time it is. Maybe last year it wasn't. Maybe the year prior. Maybe I let it slip. But I didn't now. It's back. You know when you lose weight and you're like, I look fat in that photo. You can admit it after. You're like, I was. But you're not anymore, so you could say it. You don't mind making fun of yourself in the past, right? When I had 15, although I've gained about 5 or 10 back, but we'll get it off. We'll shake it off. But it truly, the website now, thefantasyfootballshow.com right now blows the content out of the water, and I'm ashamed of last year, the year before. I'm ashamed. I should take laps. The upgraded content is crazy. All right, guys, no one wants to dial in. We'll jump over to the Dynasty Show. See you all very, very soon. Appreciate every single one of you. Dial in 5 minutes. I think it'll be a reboot of the same content, potentially. Maybe a little bit of a twist. See you on the Dynasty channel in a few minutes. Let's see if there's any. Let me just real quickly check out the. So we had Simi Valley, Aldi, FDX, 420 man all over on Rumble tonight. Guys, hit that like button over on Rumble. Follow over on Rumble. We're at 7.65K on Rumble. See you all on the Dynasty channel in T-minus 5 minutes. Deuce.